Hey fellow gardeners, Dawn here from Seasonal Designs. Today's video we're going to get a little bit crafty because I'm going to show you how to make these beautiful plant saucers for underneath your indoor houseplants. So if you're ready, let's get started. Let's quickly run through the things that you need for this project. First and foremost, a glass plate. You can find these anywhere, rummage sales, the dollar store. I ordered these from Amazon. They are tempered, so they're a little bit thicker. They're a little bit nicer. I have had really good luck with these. They're a dessert size plate. The next thing you're going to need is fabric swatches. So these only have to be big enough to cover the glass dish that you're going to be using. These can be scraps. You can find them, anywhere at a material store. You can find a lot of this stuff on sale. The other thing you're going to be needing is Mod Podge. Now this is nothing special about this. This is plain old Mod Podge. I bought it at Michael's. You're also going to need something to put it on with. I prefer this sort of spongy brush. And then I like to pour my Mod Podge into a vessel because it's just easier to stick my sponge in there. The other thing that you can do, and you don't have to, but I think this looks really nice, is I like to paint the edge of my plate with a paint. It's a pen, but it's a paint pen. And there's two different types. There's acrylic and there's oil. You want acrylic because acrylic will stay on your glass. Oil will not. These come in different colors. This is a metallic gold, but you could use silver. You can use more of a flat gold. You can use a color. I think this looks really nice with the material that I've been using. So I've been using a metallic gold paint pen. You will also need a sharp scissors, obviously, to cut your material and to trim off the edges. I like a fabric scissors. I am also going to spray this UV resistant clear coat acrylic spray on the back of these when they're completely dry, and I'll show you how to do that. The other thing that I found very helpful was to have something to elevate the glass. So I am using an old Tupperware container because when you put your glass down and you're painting it and you're putting your material on, and you're sealing it down, it's really nice to have it up. Otherwise, the edge of your plate is actually sitting on your table, or in this case on plastic, and you really don't want it to do that. You want to get it up off the table. So you need to elevate it with something. And then the last thing that might be helpful is some sandpaper, and I will show you how to do that once we get going. So now that you know everything you need, I'm going to zoom you in right on this project here, and we're going to get working. First, you're going to want to make sure that your plate is clean and that it doesn't have any greasy marks or fingerprints on it where your paint marker might not stick. So if you need to clean it off with rubbing alcohol and let it dry, or give it a good wash and dry, make sure it's completely dry. Do that before we get started. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we are going to paint the edge of this plate with our acrylic paint marker. And you need to do this first because if you get the edge messy with Mod Podge first, it's really difficult to clean it all off and get your marker on it. It's much easier to get the marker on first, and if you do get a little Mod Podge on this marker, if it's fully dry, you can just simply wipe it off with a wet cloth, and it really does not affect the marker. So the first thing we're going to do after you're sure it's really mixed well is you're just going to come in and you're going to start painting on the edge of this. And you can see how I'm just coming along the edge, and I'm going to do the whole edge. And then I'm going to come back and do like the inside edge. And don't worry if you're not perfect. If you go off, a little of this is going to be covered up by fabric anyways. but you're just simply going to draw on the edge of your plate. I have the whole outside edge complete, and now I'm going to come in and I'm going to work on the inner edge of this. The same way that I did the outside. And you're going to see that there's only going to be a small area right here on the top that I'm going to have to go back and get. And I actually like to do half of the plate first and then go back and get that top edge before it dries. So I've done everything right up to about there. So now I have all of that done, and I'm going to just keep going here on the inside edge. And then come back and do the very top. All right, I have made it all the way around, and I'm going to carefully show you. Now you can see right here where I'm maybe missing a little bit. That's going to be okay because we're going to come right up to that with our fabric. So I'm hoping that you can see that. All right, now we let it dry. Once this gold is dry, and I actually find that it dries really pretty quickly, you are going to take your plate and you're going to turn it upside down. And this is where having it elevated is going to help as well when you're putting this on. And the next thing we're going to do is we are just going to put a thin coat of the Mod Podge on the entire plate. So we want to make sure that we get the edge, and yes, you're going to be painting over your gold, but don't fear because your fabric needs to go right up to the edge. And I'm just using the fact that it's on this bowl to twist this all the way around, and you can hang on to the bowl underneath, but you really want to just cover the whole thing. All right, easy. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of fabric, and the pretty side is going to go down onto this plate. You want to make sure that you have it all over the edge and it feels good. So now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to start pushing out any air bubbles, pockets, or wrinkles. And you just want to work around this plate. Now, keep in mind, this is a round plate and the fabric is not round. So somewhere in this, you are probably going to have a little bit of a wrinkle to begin with, but it's absolutely fine because for the most part, you're not even going to see it. And I'll show you how that works. So you can see I'm just really pushing this down all the way around the sides of my bowl or my plate here. Really getting it to stick to the glass and with the Mod Podge. You can see I had a little bit of a wrinkle there. I'm just getting rid of it with my fingers. I'm just really pushing it down. And we are going to go back. So let's say you have an area that's maybe not adhered as well as you need it to be. We are going to go back and take care of that. So this is really working pretty well here. This side, so you can see how this is not really sticking for me. That's okay because we are going to go back and I'm going to flip this over. We're going to add a little bit of Mod Podge there. So I may have missed that when I was doing it. So once you have it on pretty well like that, you're going to just take it and you're going to flip it over. And now we're going to come back and we're going to cut off the excess fabric, and then we're going to work on sticking any edges that may not be fully adhered. Now I'm going to cut this excess fabric off, and I'm getting fairly close to the plate. And I'm actually using the plate a little bit as my guide. And if there's any areas that aren't stuck on quite so well, you're gonna wanna hold it. But you can see for the most part, these are all stuck on really well. Couple open areas. You're using the plate as your guide. And here's where a sharp scissors really comes in handy. Okay, so now what you can see is I do have some gaps in here where it isn't fully adhered. So I'm going to come back with my Mod Podge, and I'm just going to put some on the tip here. And I'm going to just gently pull that back, put that on, and press it down to the edge of the glass. Now we're gonna get this again from the outside, but don't be afraid to be a little messy. You're gonna get it on your fingers. A paper towel comes in handy, and you can wipe it off the edge of the gold before it even dries. So now I'm going to do this with just a little bit all the way around where I may not have this sealed all the way up to my edge. Well, now we have this pretty much sealed down to the edge of our plate here. If you have any excess Mod Podge on, you can just kind of come in and wipe it off. But we're not done yet, because we're going to work on that edge a little bit more by flipping this over. And we're gonna seal this whole thing with Mod Podge, but I'm going to start by doing my edges first, okay? So I'm going to come in with this Mod Podge and go around the whole base of this. And then I'm going to really work with my fingers again to make sure I'm mushing out any bubbles or wrinkles. All right, so I've done that, and now I'm coming in and I'm just using my thumb, and I'm going to go all the way around the edge of this, all the way down. You can see I've got a little bit of a bubble right here. I'm just going to come through that with my thumb. And yes, it's going to get on your hands. And if you get too much, you can wipe it off on a paper towel. So here's another sort of wrinkle that I'm going to work out. And once that Mod Podge is on there, it just really smooths out really nice. Like, I don't even think we're going to have a flap or any sort of wrinkle on this one. This is really adhering nicely. And you can kind of see where you started, because all the excess Mod Podge will be gone. And now the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to cover the rest of this with one coat. We're not putting any of these coats on super thick. We're just making sure the whole thing is covered and sealed. And that's it. Now we're going to let it sit and dry before we come back with a couple more steps. Once your plate is fully dry, I would say at least 24 hours. Now, I've just let this sit for an hour, and it's pretty dry, but I want to kind of show you the last couple of steps. You just want to make sure everything is adhered nicely. And what you're going to see, and let me see if I can find any, are there going to be a few little pieces of the material. So here's one. So I'm hoping you can see that little tiny piece of fabric. It's like a string that's hanging up there. If you have a really sharp scissors and it's long enough, you can trim it. Using a razor blade sometimes can work. So I might just come in and simply take that off with my razor blade. Or that's another reason to have this sandpaper. If you had a bunch of them, you could come along this edge and just finely sand those off. And you may scratch your gold a little bit and you may have to go back and touch it up. But for the most part, those are the three things that I found to work the best. I actually like the razor blade. I think that works the best for taking off those little edges. So there's one last step that you can take to give the back of your plate a little more protection. This is not necessary, but it's something you can do. I would wait until this had dried for at least 24 to 48 hours. You can then spray the back of it. This is a UV resistant clear acrylic coating in matte. You're going to follow the directions on the can by shaking it, giving it one coat, and then letting this dry fully, and you should be good to go. I'm going to be putting a link in the description of this video for the glass plates, the paint pen, as well as the Mod Podge. So if you're looking for any of those materials, you'll be able to find those in the description. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And if you're not already a subscriber, I hope you'll consider doing that and you won't miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.